If you've never seen the Final Destination films, I have a question. Do you want to watch a movie where the plot is more or less complete garbage, but in exchange, you get an insane, gruesome, poorly animated CGI death scene every 10 minutes? No? This isn't sounding like something you'd enjoy? Well, how dare you? I just watched 7.5 hours of this shit in one day, in one sitting, and you're gonna tell me that it was all for nothing? Really? Game of Thrones made an entire gimmick about being unafraid to kill any of their main characters, but when a lowbrow horror movie with boobies does it, all of the sudden you turn your noses up at it? For shame. I would elaborate a little further about what the franchise actually is, but I've more or less basically spelled it out for you. Final Destination movies are, at their core, a formula. It's one that's at times quite brutal, quite crude, and quite honestly, really easy to make fun of. Yes, for those curious, that pool did make that man's butt explode, innards becoming his outards, that sort of thing. And if you think I'm saying that incredibly nonchalantly, well, welcome to the world of Final Destination, where a man drops a plate of spaghetti and then it literally kills him. Am I going to look you in the face, hand to God, and tell you that this cinematic franchise that features a 15-year-old getting pancaked is good cinema?
Oh. Holy balls.
No, I can't in good conscience do that. But is it fun? Maybe. I watched all 5 movies in one sitting, and I can't feel my legs. I lost my leg! The first sequel to this franchise is also coming out this week after 14 years, so I think a watch party retrospective video essay is totally in order. This process was a real mixed bag that saw me lose my mind, forget what it's like to enjoy something unironically, and my chair literally broke when I was sitting in it.
I don't know if the Irish word for there. Yep, here it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. The chair is breaking.
Haters will say it's my dump truck ass, but really, I'm down 10 pounds in the last month, so I'm gonna blame the chair. It's a wooden chair, and it did kind of stab me as I was trying to escape it, so there was a non-zero part of me that did think, okay, I might be about to die in a Final Destination-like calamity. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and we are going to review 5 movies in one video. Isn't that so spectacular? My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and if you enjoy my videos and my content, please like, comment, and interact with this video. It gets it out to others, and I'm also on social media. Follow me if you want. Heart back by popular demand. I also brought my friend Natalie. She is a big Final Destination fan. She also has a ton of tragic lore from her Minneapolis, Minnesota upbringing.
This happened in Minneapolis when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, like, if I think,
drained?
well, no, some girl sat on the top of a pool drain and had her organs sucked out.
Oh!
Let's start with Final Destination 1. Obviously, what a banal thing to say, Patrick, you idiot. But it originally was a spec script or a fan-written episode to get a job of the show X-Files that was created by the franchise's eventual creator, Jeffrey Reddick. Our story centers around high school student Alex Browning, who absolutely ruins the class trip to Paris by causing a disturbance on the plane.
Alex, qu'est-ce que c'est? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Please explode!
Wait, where have I seen this before?
And everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. That motherfucker back there is not real.
But then when the plane explodes, Alex reveals that he had a premonition, or a dream, that that exact thing was going to happen. Get used to that term premonition, by the way. We've got 4.98 movies to go, and they say it a lot. Characters have dreams about the future, and then they wake up and act on them, which is why I'd like to bring up today's sponsor, Helix Mattresses. How's that for a sponsor segue, everybody? Hey pal, that mattress looks awful. Hey, how'd you know that? Me from my dreams? It's visible in the frame, silly. Fair enough, but I can't exactly afford a new one. Thanks to today's sponsor, Helix, you don't have to. Buying a whole new mattress can be a lot. But did you know that Helix offers deluxe quality memory foam mattress toppers that you can put on top of any existing mattress? No. What's this magic you speak of? How about you give it a try? I've been using my Helix mattress for the past few weeks, and I've been loving it. I got the premium memory foam mattress topper with Glaciotex, and I picked Luxury Firm because it offers a ton of extra support. I'm a big fan of it, honestly, because whenever I've been exercising, or if I'm just feeling sore, like when I lay down on my mattress topper, I instantly feel a lot better as I'm laying down and getting ready for bed. And if Firm isn't your thing, no problem, because there's a Luxury Plush model that'll instantly transform an older, tougher mattress into a luxury quality experience. Helix also offers a no-risk 100-day sleep trial guarantee, so if you don't like your product for any reason, they will help you return it and get a refund. A new mattress can be intimidating, but a mattress topper can immediately have you sleeping better. Click the link down below in the description to get my exclusive offer, 27% off your total purchase and a free bedding set with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. That's helixsleep.com/myfriendscallmepat or the link down below in the description for 27% off your order. Thanks again to Helix for sponsoring my video. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. After Alex wakes up from his dream where he sees the plane crash, he's able to convince a few of his classmates to get off the plane, thus saving their lives. But you know who they didn't save? Their adorable French teacher who died in the crash.
Les étudiants, allons-y en France.
My man just wanted to challenge these élèves to utiliser their introductory level French, and he just wanted a little bit of wine, un petit verre de vin. Oh, mon Dieu, he did not deserve to die. By the way, 1,077-day Duolingo streak, and I can still barely understand French. Je suis désolé, mes amis français. Sorry. And just to get you up to speed, there's basically two things you should know about Final Destination if you've never seen the franchise at all. Number one, in each film, we begin with a huge mass death event, and then the main character has a dream about it and saves 5 to 7 people. This one's a plane crash, but it's gonna get a lot more interesting in subsequent movies. And number two, the main character and every single person they save throughout the rest of the movie die one by one, like Willy Wonka if he was killing bitches instead of just turning them into blueberries.
Violet, you're turning violet, Violet!
Everyone is initially really mad at Alex for getting them off the plane because from their perspective, he's just interrupted their trip, but they get all real quiet. They get real quiet when they see the plane explode. Maybe this Alex guy was on to something. It would be a little bit like if the birds aren't real people, you know, the people who say birds aren't real. It would be a little bit like if they were completely right about everything. If your roommate who's half a joint deep is talking about how robins have cameras in them, man, and they're watching us, and you're like, that's crazy, but then a pigeon bot flies into your window, well, you're going to feel really silly when its ocular nerve flies out and starts sparking all over the place. Obviously, a random high schooler predicting a plane crash and then getting off of it right before it actually crashes raises some eyebrows, so he is investigated by Agent Ween and Agent Shrek. And because I know you're curious, Final Destination 1 came out in 2000, Shrek came out in 2001, so I'm sure the creators of Final Destination are forever just a tiny bit annoyed that that movie coming out made their own creation a lot sillier. It's okay though, because as a result, we can make a joke. We can use the YouTube-approved 3 seconds of All-Stars Smash Mouth overcut of the scene where Agent Ween and Agent Shrek let somebody escape who's canoeing away from them.
Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on.
Fun fact, the average city pays about 40% of their municipal budget to the police, and if we're going to believe the Final Destination films, they're clearly just a bunch of bumbling goons. It would have been better if they had invested all of those millions into shower safety technology, as we get to the first death of a main character in the franchise, Todd with 1D. And that name just feels wrong, unless you're a man named Todd who's really into masturbation. I hope you have 1D, Todd. That's really, generally, the correct amount of Ds to have. A shadow appears, which literally never reappears again in this film or any of the 4 subsequent ones, and then a sort of conscious liquid emerges, which Natalie and I affectionately nicknamed Goop.
See, Goop is actually a very...
The goop is the plot device.
Yeah, I think Goop is a
Oh, it's from the
principal
toilet.
character
Okay.
that will appear in later movies.
I would argue like roughly half the deaths are attributable to some sort of liquid. It's also, obviously, in this case, the reason why Todd dies. And as I've mentioned, every single person who survives these initial casualty events gets killed one by one throughout the course of every film. Their deaths range from relatively sensible things, kind of ways people actually die in real life, like getting Regina Georged.
And you can just drop dead.
Or more outlandish things, and I'll read the exact description from Wikipedia because I find it funny. Head crushed by falling Buddha statue, or diced through torso by fence after getting struck by flying CO2 tank. After the first film, it really becomes abundantly clear that every single person is essentially doomed, and there's almost no way to cheat the system. It's a little bit like what I was told about college when I was in high school. Over in college, it's the big time. There's gonna be no slacking and no cheating allowed. Well, joke's on you, Mrs. Wynn, because now every college student uses ChatGPT, and they're all stupid. The last thing you should know about Final Destination is that it's one of the wettest film franchises of all time. It's positively dripping, soaked, dank, damp, moist. Roll the montage.
Bloodline, what a
twister, twist it, turn it. Fly down the screamer, spin and turn it. Soar down the cliff, it's 6 stories high. The hurricane is like a rocket ride. The mammoth cloud rides fast, it's cool. Catch the surf in a giant wave pool.
Back to reality. Okay, one more thing about the Final Destination movies. They really don't know how to write exposition well, or most dialogue well, but just take a look.
So, 17, on the loose, senior trip with your friends in Paris, 10 days in the springtime.
I love exposition.
You got your whole life ahead of you.
As I've mentioned before, this is probably the franchise's single biggest weakness, because the death is kind of fun if you're into that sort of thing, but in between, there are so many scenes of the characters incessantly chattering about their current predicaments. Oh no, there's no way we're all dying one by one, cut to 10 minutes later and 2 deaths later, oh man, we're all dying one by one, well we can beat this, and then basically nobody ever beats it. Like, that happens in basically every single film. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I haven't even talked about the most iconic character in the entire franchise, William Bloodworth, and, well, I'll just let him introduce himself.
Terrorize even the Grim Reaper. And you don't even want to with that Mac Daddy.
I don't know if I've ever heard death described as a Mac Daddy. Frankly, I hope to never hear it again. Bloodworth explains to our main characters what the rules are, and then there's like 3 additional scenes after this also explaining the rules, in case you missed it the first, second, or third time. Alex ran into this ray of sunshine after breaking into the morgue to see Todd's body, and he is accompanied by Clear Rivers, his crush and manic pixie dream girl. And look, I'd like to apologize for all the times I said names like Crystal or Misty were surefire ways to get your daughter to end up in the Pink Pony Club, because there is no quicker way to send your future daughter down a dark path than to name her Clear Rivers. Clear Rivers. Anyway, after that, the pretty boy jock, Carter, sees his girlfriend get Regina Georged. Unfortunately, unlike Regina, that bus marked the end of her high school career, and her career of living. That was over too. And fun fact, the characters of this film were originally intended to be adults, but they were changed into teenagers given the success of the Scream franchise. And that's a true fun fact, because I don't have a point. It's not part of criticism. It's not even really funny. Do you find it fun? That's up to you. And then their teacher, who was also saved from the plane, Mrs. Luton, dies in rather tragic Rube Goldberg-esque conditions, and unfortunately for our main character, Alex, he goes to the scene of the crime in an attempt to save her, and just ends up implicating himself in a comical way. If I showed you this out of context frame, you could hardly be blamed for thinking that he did it, right?
I'm not going Dahmer on you guys.
I don't know, Alex, that sounds exactly like what someone who is going Dahmer on me would say. Just saying. Alex then goes into hiding with the help of his friends and explains another important concept in the franchise, death order. Okay, I promise, for real this time, this is the last thing that you need to know about the franchise. Then we can go full, no thoughts, head empty, let's enjoy the silly death scenes and the terrible dialogue, okay? Generally, the characters in the films die in the same order that they would have died in the original event at the start of the film's runtime. Generally. The franchise changes this rule like 7 different times, and in one movie they just start going in reverse for some reason. Like, it gets so comical that in the 4th film they're literally making fun of themselves.
Some say the chain can be broken. Like if you were to intervene into someone else's death, that would end it. But others say, unless the chain is broken completely, then you're just changing the batting order, and sooner or later, you're up.
With this new revelation, Carter, realizing he's going to die, starts driving rather erratically, just like one of my exes who is a one-eyed chef and a prolific ignorer of the speed limit sign. No, I'm not going to elaborate any further. The friend who no one really likes, Billy, does react to his death in a rather fun way, though.
Please, tell me I'm going to get to see the Jets win a Super Bowl.
5 minutes later.
Billy, I'm not dead! Oh, you will be! You're dead! You're dead! Oh, shit!
I guess you could say the Jets really did kill him.
The Jets killed Carl.
It's crazy I've used that clip twice on this channel. It's such a versatile clip, and I guess because like, oh, plane crash, the Jets, that's kind of fun, right? I don't know. And in every film, there's one of the main characters who dies and basically nobody cares. In this film, it's Billy. Sorry, Billy, but your life really didn't have that much value. Alex now has to go on the lam because from the perspective of the rest of the world, he is the #1 suspect in a pretty egregious murder arson. He's hiding out in Clear's cabin, which leads to this rather uncomfortable scene where he is eating tuna.
This is like the hardest thing to watch in the movie for me.
I know.
It looks like gruel.
Or suddenly it looks like
can we get another decapitation? Oh.
Clear then decides to turn him into the FBI because, famously, nobody has ever died in protective custody in a prison. Nope. Alex doesn't just outrun the FBI though, he out-canoes them, and eventually goes back to Clear's house where he saves her from Death's multiple attempts to kill her. And then we get a time jump. The 3 remaining survivors, Alex, Clear, and Carter, are all leisurely having a drink on a quaint Parisian street cafe. So I'm gonna have to push back on this tweet. Yes, actually, the American mind can comprehend this. In fact, 3 teenagers who've been through unspeakable tragedy will literally go on the vacation that killed all of their friends again for the sheer purpose of having a beer in France al fresco. Oh, and speaking of catastrophe, Carter gets crushed by a sign and dies, and then the film ends. My advice to you is to get used to the abrupt endings because the franchise loves doing them. The tones of these films vary vastly, and their desire to give you emotional closure or not, it's pretty erratic. Personally, I would have to say Final Destination 1 is my favorite of the entire franchise because it's the most grounded, it's the most fun, and in a lot of ways it is the most innovative. It's also relatively simple. Things are not going to stay simple for long. Things are going to very quickly go off the rails. And speaking of closure, this happens about 20 minutes into Final Destination 2, but I'll tell you now anyway. They kill Alex off-screen between movies. Do you want to know what his cause of death was? A falling brick. What is he, a Looney Tunes cartoon? What is this franchise doing to my beloved legacy characters? This does speak to the absurdity of these movies though, because sometimes death will just one-tap you with a brick. Like, what was he supposed to do realistically? And sometimes, if death is trying to kill you, it'll do this. Yes, Final Destination 2 opens with perhaps the most iconic scene from the entire franchise, the highway pileup.
Already on the
It's true, midriff, like the pile up, midriff.
And just to set the record straight, Natalie and I are not hall monitors trying to write Clear up for a dress code violation. No, just throughout all of the films, Clear loves her crop tops. More power to her. But yes, I brought up Clear because Clear returns to the film as the final girl from Final Destination 1. She has been living in a padded room to make sure that death can't kill her. She eventually becomes the guide to the new protagonist, Kimberly, whose quick thinking and premonition saves herself and a lot of other people. Well, not those others. Those were all her friends. They got. They were gonna go to spring break together, and I don't think that's happening anymore. Creator Jeffrey Reddick describes this as an intentional choice to immediately kill off all the college kids to show how different this film is going to be from Final Destination 1. Our main characters here are more regular people, like a punk and a businesswoman, who are both doing drugs, as were all of Kimberly's friends. I think everyone on this road was doing drugs. It's no wonder everybody crashed. Everyone on this highway is living up to the name. They're way high. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna soak the... Come on! Boo me now! I've seen what makes you cheer! As was the case with the first movie, everybody who Kimberly saves starts dying one by one, beginning with lottery winner Evan Lewis. The lottery sum he won, $250,000, and he is treated like he is filthy rich, which is, you know, a sign of the times. 2003. I bet that could buy you... I bet that's like $8 million now. No, it's not that bad. Oh, really? It's that much? Oh, gosh. He drops his ring down the drain and then sticks his entire arm down the garbage disposal in an attempt to get it back. And maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like the music here is almost weirdly sexy. Sounds like he's really servicing those pipes. Why did we do the voice? Also, just a friendly piece of advice for anyone watching, never stick your entire arm down the garbage disposal if you find yourself in a horror movie. A common circumstance I'm sure we all get into a couple times a week. But that's not even what kills him. He throws, at the beginning of the scene, a plate of spaghetti out the window, and then eventually 5 minutes later, when he's Mr. Magooing himself to death, that's what kills him. Kimberly and Clear, alongside hot police officer Thomas Burke, then deduce that all of the survivors must be dying in reverse order. Why is this happening? You know, if you just asked fewer questions about stuff like the plot or the logic, you know, we'd all be having a lot more fun and we'd all be getting through this a lot easier, wouldn't we? Oh yeah, and if someone intervenes, you might just go to the back of the line or you might live forever. Who knows? We're all just speculating. None of this matters. Here's a very weird joke that one of the child survivors makes when he goes to the dentist.
If he gives me the gas and I wake up with my pants unbuttoned, we ain't paying.
This guy r***ed me, we're not paying. He'll still me, but we're not paying.
2003, am I right?
Listen, I don't like the dentist that I've definitely been seeing every 6 months and haven't completely abandoned entirely after I've graduated college, but I don't think he's a diddler. Anyways, no diddling here, but after his appointment, he does get turned into a pancake with extra jam. That was a fun moment for this series. The first child murder is really a big turning point. By the second, you know, who cares really? If you've downloaded one mod on Skyrim to get rid of Braith, you've downloaded them all, really.
What are you looking at? I'm not afraid of you, you know. Even if you are my elder.
There's then this scene, which adds basically nothing to the plot, but I have to include it anyway for, well, you'll see why almost immediately.
What the f*** are you thinking?
I'm thinking sucking my junk, biatch.
The Godfather, step aside, I think your crown for the best film of all time has just been snatched. The gang then realizes that because a pregnant woman was saved in the crash, if she gives birth, it'll save all of them for some reason. Except later on in the movie, we realize this isn't even true because the woman who was pregnant wasn't supposed to die anyway. So that's a moot point. But also, like, what is the logic to begin with? I don't understand it at all. Since she was supposed to live, why would Death care? He wouldn't. Why would the audience care? Who knows? But then the woman who recently survived her 15-year-old son gets her head smushed by an elevator.
There it goes.
The death scenes are the jingling keys to keep the audience along the ride of the schizophrenically insane plot. Oh, and the people using drugs earlier in their cars right after this get killed in very brutal and insane ways. Remember, kids, McGruff the crime dog says, say no to drugs.
Say no way. Marijuana's the best way to fall. Using crack and cocaine to get high, but it's really insane. You could die.
Eugene, another survivor, was injured in a car crash and is then rushed to the hospital where he's now visited by Kimberly, Clear, and the now sexier because he's out of uniform, Thomas Burke. But death waits for no one, and an explosion kills Eugene alongside legacy character Clear Rivers. Rest in peace. But seeing all of this, and given that their whole pregnancy scheme didn't work, which, by the way, I don't even get it. Like, even if she was supposed to die and there's new life that otherwise wouldn't be, wouldn't death just murk the baby? I mean, there's no reservation with killing 15-year-olds. I'm not sure why a baby is suddenly a bridge too far. But seeing all this, Kimberly decides she has to sacrifice herself to save her hot boyfriend, Thomas Burke. Admirable, really. Hey, gays out there, would your boyfriend sacrifice themselves so that you would live? I don't think so. I think after you died, they would immediately be trying to rekindle those old flames that they were just messaging all the time. It was totally innocuous. Wasn't. They're there, in case you get Final Destinationed. To facilitate her sacrifice efficiently, Kimberly drives into a lake.
The machine knows! Stop yelling at me! No, it's Stop yelling! There's no road here!
It's not exactly a clear river, but it'll do. Too soon, too soon. R.I.P. Also, please let me know in the comments if slow motion has ever made a scene in a horror movie better in all of human history. Because I'm thinking the answer is a resounding no, but I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. It just looks so bad, guys. Like, I know it was really fun for you from a production side to be driving a car into a river or a lake or a pool. I think this was filmed in a pool, but like, come on. Really? Somehow this process of Kimberly sacrificing herself to save Burke, she dies briefly from the drowning, but then she's brought back to life. Somehow all of this is enough to thwart death, and then they both are able to live happily ever after, except for, well, this kid who gets blown up. And again, I'm really not sure why Kimberly and Burke both get to live. Like, I guess Kimberly technically dying for 3 minutes, maybe that's enough to trick death, as if death were just like some sort of very easily thwarted thing. But why does Burke get to live? Whatever, who am I to question the franchise's singular happy ending across 5 films? We can move on. Oh, and around this time, Natalie and I ordered food, and then our DoorDash driver literally got hit by a car on the way to our apartment, which in my mind, I'm like, shit, did I just create another Final Destination movie?
The cats are fighting. Oh my god. The first time I ordered food delivery in 2 months, and my ethical...
He said, sorry for the delay, a car hit me.
Fortunately, he was fine. The only casualty was Natalie's burrito bowl, and we left a 5-star review and a generous tip. That's all you can do. I don't like ordering delivery apps, but I will make an exception every 2 months, and then when I do, this shit happens. Final Destination 3 is Natalie's favorite and my personal nightmare because it involves a roller coaster accident, one of the biggest things in my life that I'm paranoid of. They're crashing! They're supposed to be safe, that's the one thing they're not supposed to do! Oh. It came out in 2006, and it was the first film made without Jeffrey Reddick, and it was also the first film to try to do a real theme, which didn't really work out at all. They tried to develop the theme of losing control, and it ties into the roller coaster, and could have done without it, honestly. When fundamentally unserious films attempt to have serious thematic development, it often comes across as either unnecessary or poorly executed. I would argue both are the case here. The Final Destination films are fundamentally unserious. This is the franchise that routinely butchers all of their main characters, and in this film specifically, is going to kill a couple teens in tanning beds. Anyways, back to the roller coaster, the film's creators had to deny that it had any inspiration or took anything from the 2003 Big Thunder Mountain disaster, which actually did end up killing somebody. Just like in the original Final Destination 1, they had to deny that it had any resemblance to a 1996 aviation disaster, despite the fact that in Final Destination 1, they literally took some news footage from that event. So that's another fun fact, I guess. Well, that's two fun facts for you. And obviously, to their credit, the first Final Destination film came out in 2000. How were they to know about 9/11?
Reminds me of that guy who was way too happy he didn't get killed on 9/11.
I'm 10 minutes late for work. Look at that. I stayed up late watching Monday Night Football and that saved my life, huh? Isn't that awesome?
Anyways, let's get to the opening set piece of a fun day at the amusement park where absolutely nothing is going to go wrong. We're back to high schoolers again, and recent graduate Wendy is there with her boyfriend and a bunch of her friends, and they're gonna have the summer of their lives. Or their deaths. I can't do an evil laugh, I guess. I just learned that for the first time. Yeah, it's not coming. Oh, and this random guy who is apparently an alumnus of the high school, he's there, and he's filming everything on a video camera, and that video camera, which he brings on the roller coaster, is actually what causes the fatal accident that kind of messes everything up. Of course, Wendy has a premonition and is able to save herself and everybody else on her specific car on the roller coaster, but her boyfriend's in the other car, and they send that one away to its certain doom. And to be honest with you, Wendy, you didn't try hard enough to get the car to stop.
You didn't put in that much effort. If you had started climbing on the cars, they wouldn't have put in.
You're right. It's her fault.
It is fully your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault.
Sometime later, Kevin, who also lost his girlfriend, rehashes the plot of the first movie while he is completely sopping wet from the rain. And look, I get that this would be helpful if you hadn't immediately seen Final Destination 1 or if you'd never seen it, but when you do a 7.5-hour movie marathon of all of the movies together, it feels like a solid hour. It's just the characters in every movie after the first one being like, you know, there was this flight 180, and then like they got off the plane and they all died one by one. Like that, it comes up so much, it comes up in every single movie, and like I get it, but also like it really, when you're looking at the works in totality, it brings them down. Wendy doesn't listen to his moist ramblings, and she also denies an invitation from popular girls Ashley and Ashley to go to the tanning salon. This ends up proving to be a wise decision, as the two girls are both killed and burned alive in the tanning beds, which leads to the franchise's singular most iconic cut.
I'm melting.
Yes, yeah. I love that cut.
Kino!
That's cinema. That's Kino. I said that like 15 times during the showing, and Natalie got annoyed. If I could afford an actual editor, I would do a montage for you, but you'll have to take my word for it. Seriously, these films are not excellent cinema. It's hard for me to even say that they're good, but for 5 minutes in each of the films, they just lock in. They lock the fuck in. But at their funeral, apparently we learn that they were not 18.
These two girls who
Never done shit to anybody. They don't need to make it to 18. Where's the f***ing
Oh, so we... Oh! We just saw their boobs.
Yeah.
I'm fine, alright.
This is, well, problematic. I don't feel good about this at all, Final Destination 3. Like, this is bad. I should note here that 4 of the 5 films feature a topless woman in some capacity. That's just something out there for the fellas, I guess. But, like, in this context, I feel this is disgusting. Let's just keep going, I guess. The big plot device of this movie is that the photos that Wendy took on the day that this roller coaster disaster happened actually offer foreshadowing in terms of how death is going to try to kill you. This point is made with this photo of Lincoln pre-assassination and this rather odd photo of the Twin Towers. Haters will say it's Photoshop, and shout out to the haters. They're right. It is Photoshop. The pervert, who's apparently named Frankie Cheeks, pause for laughter, hold for laughter, he is killed brutally in front of Wendy and Kevin, and then pretty soon after that, their friend Lewis is also killed in his college weight room. There's a statistic about how only 1.5% of college football players end up making it to the NFL, and it's not because it's difficult, it's because actually thousands of college football students die every year in Final Destination-esque calamities. Think twice before working out underneath 2 very poorly attached swords. Oh, and speaking of workplace hazards, it's around here that my chair completely collapsed.
This chair feels like it's gonna break. It'll be so funny though, I hope it happens on video.
2 hours later.
Yeah, here it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. The chair is breaking. Oh no, the camera shot isn't even that good. I've just gotten lower.
See you sinking.
Yeah, I can just see me sinking. Yeah. So the chair is collapsed. Alright, back to the film.
Alright. Kevin and Wendy then go to try to warn their 2 goth friends who are dating, but it just ends up in one of them dying rather suddenly and tragically. Stop me if you've heard that one before. This is starting to sound so routine, it really brings to mind the Stalin quote. One death is a tragedy, but if a film franchise kills off all of their main characters in every single movie, the viewer starts to become apathetic. Stalin was more of an Adam Sandler guy, in fact, loved Happy Madison, but he loved Jack and Jill. That was his favorite.
What's my name? Dunkachino. It's a whole new game. Dunkachino.
And while Kevin and Wendy feel despondent, they're not giving up.
We can beat this. We're so close, we can't give up.
Close to what? Close to what? You've solved nothing and your friends keep dying. This does add to the film's central theme of control. Wendy always wants control, even in circumstances where it may not always be realistic. But frankly, let's put all of that bullshit aside because it's really adding to another new theme of copium. Things come to a head at the town's tricentennial celebration, where Ian, who is upset that he feels they killed his girlfriend, he goes to try to kill them, but then he gets assigned a death sentence. Booze warranted in that case, again. For those keeping track at home, that's now 2 people who've been killed with a falling sign and 0 with a gun. I think America might be prioritizing the wrong thing. Forget gun control, I think we need a lot more regulations and some background checks before you can buy a sign. But Wendy and Kevin, alongside Julie, her sister, all inexplicably end up on a random subway car together a few months later. And personally, guy like me, if I see the only remaining survivors from this tragic catastrophe, I'm getting off that train. I'm getting off that train. I get that New York City is a big city, but it's not that big. But do you really think this is a coincidence? You've just seen all your friends get murdered. Like, it's not a coincidence at this point. Wendy has a premonition that sees the train crash, so she immediately tells everybody and they try to get the train to stop because there's an emergency brake in the train car. Like, is that a real thing? Like, I don't know. The movie leaves it ambiguous as to whether or not they actually are successful. In reality, they probably all died. Do New York City subway cars really have these brakes that any idiot can pull? Even if they did, when you eventually get back to the station, try explaining it to the famously warm and cuddly NYPD officers who are stationed all throughout the subway so they can make $90,000 a year playing Candy Crush. Final Destination 3 is a weird one. I feel like the franchise is losing steam a little bit. Also, I am now nearly 5 hours into this process, and I also feel like the change in creative direction is very noticeable. But boy, did I have a much greater appreciation for it immediately after that, watching Final Destination 4, which is by far categorically the worst entry in the entire franchise. But before we get started, I have to escape my chair.
No, there literally is like a bunch of shit stabbing.
shards. This is like a medieval torture. Or some weird German sex thing.
I'm gonna show you that here for a second.
Prolapse chair.
My prolapse chair anus. Final Destination 4 begins with our characters at a NASCAR adjacent race, and it begins with a party foul.
Hey, sport, my girl use your binoculars?
Drink as much as you like.
Very poor etiquette. If you see someone with binoculars flask, chances are they need every last drop of that alcohol or they are gonna start getting the shakes. People who have a healthy relationship with alcohol generally do not own flasks that look like binoculars. Our main character in this film is Nick, accompanied by his girlfriend Lori and his two friends Hunt and Janet. Oh, it's Costco, fucking Dylan Minette.
Yeah. White guy in a t-shirt.
Oh wow, where have we seen that? Where have we seen Woodbreak recently? And I know this next criticism is a little silly, far be it from me to call out this very highbrow franchise with how it's written its women characters, but that's actually exactly what I'm gonna do. Lori and Janet contribute almost nothing to the film besides being literal damsels of distress to be saved once in a car wash and then another time at the climax of the film.
Damn it, Janet!
And this is so unfortunate because there have been a lot of strong female characters throughout the rest of the films, but speaking of climax, how can this film be scummy? They include a full-on sex scene!
No, we're not done. I'm not done. Come on. No.
I finished like 4 minutes ago. Ever played Donkey Punch?
Just like a true American, Hunt takes absolutely no interest in his partner's pleasure. Hunt is probably one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise because he's just so scummy and unlikable, it really just becomes absurd.
We just lost a really hot milk.
Ironically, the acronym that I had to censor in that clip is Mom, I'd like to friend, except that last F word is a different F word. Ironically, YouTube hates that word, but when you censor it, it almost sounds even dirtier, so thanks, YouTube. Anyways, Nick, premonition of a disaster happening, saves his friends and some random people. Said random people and friends start dying. You know the drill by now. The first death is a racist dude who wanted to go back in the stadium to try to save his racist wife who ended up dying, and he blames the security guard George for doing so he tries to do some real old school racism and burn a cross in that guy's yard. It doesn't work out well for him. Well, anyway, back to bed. Actually, come to think of it, this film is kind of moral with a few of its killings. Like, that guy dies for trying to do racism, and then later, another woman dies because she personally makes 3 service employees stay after hours to honor her appointment that she was 50 minutes late for, not 15, 50! Frankly, having worked at a bar, I felt absolutely nothing when she got David and Goliath to death. You know, rock meets head. You know what I mean.
I've got my eye on you two.
Okay, she does look better. Oh, and it's the rock. Oh, she got one-tapped! And then Hunt dies immediately after he doesn't make sure his partner's pleasure was satisfied.
Oh, boy.
Take notes, fellas. The female orgasm. Not only is it real, but if it's not realized, it's real deadly. I've said this is the worst film in the franchise, and I really should elaborate. The entire film was designed primarily for 3D. I obviously didn't watch it in 3D, and it shows. And despite the fact that this film has by far the largest budget, it has the worst special effects, and the special effects have aged the worst, it's really rough. There's also a ton of dream sequences, which really add nothing to the film besides bloat the runtime, take away the budget, and look terrible. There is no possible way on God's green earth that it was cheaper to animate that snake rather than pay the $100 it would cost to get stock footage of a snake. Or just use a photo on Google Images. I know this is a YouTube video and the standards are a lot lower, but come on. Tighten it up, guys. Oh, also, Final Destination 4 has probably some of the worst writing in the entire franchise, too. As I've said before, the scenes where the characters are trying to figure out this death thing have always been the weak point of the franchise because A, we, as the audience, know way more than the characters and know basically how it works, and B, even if we, the audience, are wrong, it's usually because the movie has decided to ignore some of its own rules or take it in a bizarre, esoteric direction. But in 4, not only are these scenes that I'm talking about noticeably worse, they're also so bizarre. The pacing in particular is odd. For instance, Nick and Lori go to talk to George, the security guard, and find him hanging from the ceiling, so they obviously have to cut him down. And then literally in the next scene, this is not an exaggeration, literally in the next scene, they are celebrating, and then they're planning a trip to Amsterdam. What the fuck?
We've been given a second chance. So what are you guys gonna do?
What do you mean a second chance?
Yeah, do they just all decide? What is this sudden shift
Are
in
they
tone?
surviving?
One scene ago, you were worried about protecting yourselves and fighting this thing, and then the next scene, you're going on a plane? Like, are you stupid? And shortly after that, they realized that there was somebody else Nick inadvertently saved who got injured pretty severely, and now he's in the hospital. So they go to try to save him, but unfortunately, he is going to die a very wet death. The bathtub in the floor above him has been left overflowing by a nurse who turned on the water and then left, and it does not go well for the cowboy.
Wow. It's such a wet franchise.
Nick then has another vision and realizes he has to save his girlfriend, and George is totally down to help, but alas, he has death framing.
Are you spaghetti?
Oh, framing, that framing. I don't like that framing. Ah!
You got it.
Yep.
Death framing is kind of a subjective thing, but throughout the franchise, you can definitely kind of tell when somebody's dumbass is in the street and they're about to be hit by a bus. Nick's vision leads him to the mall where he thinks that Lori and Janet are going to die in an explosion, and it turns out that he's right, because they're seeing a movie and the movie theater's building additional screens, and just like in any standard construction site, the construction site has like 15 barrels of highly explosive liquid. Because, I mean, like, you can't exactly have a construction site without dozens of barrels of incredibly flammable stuff, am I right? Anyways, Nick uses his heroism to stop the fire that was going to explode everything, and that's saving Janet and Lori. But also, not just them, conservatively saving at least another dozen people, if not frankly, most of that entire theater. Like, this was a full theater. So by the whole logic of the film, that if you're supposed to die and something intervenes, you've caused a wrinkle in death's design. Weren't there just like 100 wrinkles that were created? Like, are we not gonna address this at all? Well, you know, at a breezy 82 minutes, this film doesn't really have time to do so, so we're just gonna move on. Our main characters then sit in a cafe and innocently wonder, like, hey, what if all the times we've saved each other, what if that was all also part of death's grand design? Which, if that were true, wouldn't that make literally every single one of these films pointless? Like, am I wrong about that? Is that not the case? Anyways, a truck plows into the cafe and they all die. So that's movie 4 down. What an absolute bummer of a film. It adds really nothing original to the franchise at all. The writing and the plot is the worst by far out of any of the 4 movies to this point. And the CGI has aged by far the worst out of any of the 4 movies we've watched so far. And also, this is where I really hit the wall. After 6 hours of slop-adjacent cinema, I was kind of losing it a little bit. But I'm not done yet, because we've got one more film and then the sequel, but that's going to be a different video if I covered it all. Final Destination 5. Final Destination 5 was released in 2011, which was shocking, because honestly, from a visual perspective, the screen language and just how it was shot really reminds me of something released in like 2021, which, take it for what you will. It also features the most famous actor outside of horror legend Tony Todd playing Bloodworth, but it features David Koechner playing a character you might know him from either Anchorman or The Office. Despite the fact that they have a famous character actor, Final Destination 5 immediately takes us back to the roots of the series. Bad dialogue and sloppy exposition.
I think this one actually, I've heard this one's better than 4.
Okay.
12 seconds later.
Look, you just need to make a decision. You know, are you gonna be chef? Or are you gonna be sales guy? I'm saying that to you.
Okay, well,
as your boss.
I can't believe I said positive things about this movie.
Hey.
Oh my god.
I'm still all in.
But that's our main character, Sam, whose girlfriend Molly immediately breaks up with him 2 days before they were set to go to his brother's wedding.
Molly, your ticket's canceled. Tell me that's a mistake.
Look, I get that people might not like going to every single wedding. That's certainly one way to get out of your obligation. It's the nuclear option, but if it works, right? I'm actually very pro-wedding for what it's worth, but I'm sure many of you are annoyed by the process at this point in your lives. Molly is also his coworker, which is a little weird, but it's not weirder than Sam's boss, Peter, macking with the intern named Candace.
I love you, but it doesn't change the fact that you're still an intern.
Oh my god.
Look, this is already way better than Final Destination 4, if for no other reason. I can't wait to see all these characters meet their comical ends. Today's opening set piece, bridge collapse. That's neat. Sam has a premonition and is able to save a good third of his fellow employees. His boss, Dennis, his friend Nathan, his other coworker, Olivia, and the the IT guy and pervert, Isaac. This is great for Sam because he's struggling at his job, and this definitely bought him some much needed goodwill, but his central character dilemma is, do I continue to be this terrible salesman, or do I take a Parisian apprenticeship with the place I work and cook at? Like, come on. Like, he's bad at sales.
How did you know?
Because I'm such a damn great salesman. I'm be taking that promotion, boss. I think a bunch of our coworkers just died.
I just got a premonition that I got a raise.
And look, maybe it's because at this point, nearly 7 hours in, my brain is starting to melt out of my ears, and I'm starting to parasocially think of these characters as real people, but this is not that difficult of a decision, right? The one-eyed chef that I dated didn't even get an opportunity to do a Parisian internship, and he was very talented. He went to the CIA. And no, I will not be elaborating on that. Anyways, 2/3 of the company died, and Sam is trying to win back his girlfriend with puppy dog eyes at their joint funeral. Look, God forbid I ever die in some tragic accident, y'all better not lump my funeral in with a joint funeral. I need my own. Do not cheap out, okay? This is YouTube video. It's basically as good as a will. I'm tired of having my birthday shared with Christmas. I will not have my funeral shared and become a corporate outing. They then bump into Bloodworth, who actually has been present in all of these films in some capacity, but when he's advising the main characters on something, he mostly just says like, oh, what an awful, terrible predicament you're in. You're not going to beat death. Kind of the opposite sentiment of a get well soon card. But in this film, he is actually relevant to the plot, which is really fun, but we're not quite there yet. Before we get to that, we have to see supportive boyfriend Peter encouraging his still in college intern girlfriend at her gymnastics practice.
Guess this is the last practice before the championship. And it's your last practice of your college career.
I know.
This doesn't remind me at all of any person I dated while I was still in college and they weren't. Not at all. I'm very mentally happy inside. Anyways, his college girlfriend dies in a freak gymnastics accident right in front of him. Fortunately for me, never happened. I did not die when I was in college performing theater or comedy. Didn't happen. Okay, I probably shouldn't be rubbing it in. In fairness, Peter did just see his girlfriend turned into a human pretzel. ChatGPT, generate me a... No, stop it. If you want to make a joke about a human pretzel, you open Adobe Photoshop or Paint.net or GIMP. Can I say that? That's literally the name of software. I feel like YouTube doesn't like that word either. Anyway, go make the image yourself. It'll look maybe a little rougher on the edges, or maybe you make it look nice, whatever. But because it's human, it's funnier. That's my opinion. Anyways, Isaac, the creepy dude, starts looting the desks of their fallen employees and finds a voucher for a massage.
I know he's like meant to be scummy, but I mean,
they're not using it. My coworkers would want me to have their old gifts and give the kids.
Like the person he's been typecast to be, he is racist, gross, and disgusting.
Yum, yum, dim sum.
Yeah, this guy's comically awful, but it's just gonna make what's about to happen a lot more fun for the audience.
Let's do this. 2 billion people can't be Wong. I said Wong. You follow me?
Okay, speed it up. Let's speed it up, guys. Let's just get to the murder already. That's more like it. But it's time for Bloodworth to step in and offer a new rule to the franchise, kind of. If you're doomed, like you're in the situation of our main characters where you're living on borrowed time, if you murder somebody else, you get to take their years and live for as long as they were going to live. Usually, kind of. There are exceptions, I guess. The film's ending really does not support their own rules, at least with my reading of the film, but this is a lot better than, I don't know, someone intervenes, like you might get skipped forever, or you might just go back of the line and die anyway, like whatever, we don't know. Like that, all of that is way too convoluted. This at least makes sense. It also adds a big ethical wrinkle to the process, which I don't think we've ever kind of grasped in any of the 5 films, so I think that's a nice touch. Oh, people who use glasses. Have you ever considered laser eye surgery, LASIK? Well, after watching this movie, you're never going to consider that, because Olivia is going to go get laser eye surgery, and then it lasers out one of her eyes, and then she stumbles out of the building, out of a window in confusion.
Whatever happened to fun? Whoa.
I'm moving to New York, and I'm gonna find where Lexi became a splat, and I'm gonna leave some flowers. Honestly, that death was so Final Destination coded for just a random episode of Sex and the City. Anyways, Sam uses all of his trauma bonding to win back his girlfriend like the loser he is. She's always maintained that he needs to take this apprenticeship in Paris, and he wasn't because he was dating her, and that's kind of why she broke up with him. But now that everything's gone crazy and you might not have a job, she figures like, yeah, go there, and I might even come with you. So everything's turning up roses for Sam. Nathan, Sam's friend who works in the factory, they do the sales, the factory is a whole different thing, but Sam's friend Nathan kind of advertently murders this very racist union representative, so if Bloodworth is to be believed, he has now taken all of that guy's years. But before they can dwell on things, Todd Packer gets wrenched to death. R.I.P. Despite all of this carnage, Sam still has to go to his shift at the restaurant, where apparently he can just waltz right in the middle of dinner service. His shift goes on without controversy, although he is obviously justifiably very nervous. Lots of ways death could theoretically kill you in a kitchen, and he prepares this nice dinner for Molly, and then a dejected Peter enters the restaurant. He's giving dejected school shooter, and he honestly very much lives up to it, because he decides he's going to kill Molly since in Sam's original vision, Molly was supposed to survive, so theoretically she has a lot of years left to live. You don't do a year. Well, you can do a lot in a year. This is what happens. The film has broken my brain. And funnily enough, this is actually the first time in all 5 movies where we've seen someone use a gun to actively try to get someone else. And like, not to do America bad humor, but America is bad, and frankly, we love guns. So I'm shocked it's taken like this long, right? Agent Block, the FBI agent for this film and the cut character from the Minecraft movie, he's been present, but he's not really impacting the plot that much, but he goes in to try to save them, and then he gets killed by Peter. So now Peter theoretically has all of his years, right? Molly tries to use this fact to convince him to spare her life. It doesn't really work out.
Tell Candace I love her.
Just an insane thing to say about your still in college intern girlfriend that you just met, but whatever. But Sam saves the day, killing Peter, and now theoretically having the years that he took from Agent Block. Right? Well, yes, but in a very real sense, no. Because the in-love couple boards a plane to Paris. The only problem, it is flight 180, and we see some familiar faces on that plane.
Come on, get on.
Yep, Final Destination 5 ends with them getting on the same plane that began Final Destination, meaning that this film took place in 2000, meaning it is technically a period piece, which they took almost no steps to make it look like this was 2001. Like, tell me with a straight face this is 2001. You fully can, but it's fine. You know what? It's fine. It's a fun ending. It's a fun ending. And what a great way to bring this video full circle. Except they are releasing that sequel, so that's gonna mess with things a little bit. But that doesn't even count because it's not in this video. So, full circle for a video. Isn't that lovely? Final Destination is a fun franchise. Is it good? It's like Little Caesars Pizza. Is it good? It's hot and it's fresh. And sometimes that's all you need out of a film. It's a perfect film to watch at home with some friends, maybe crack a couple jokes at the screen, maybe indulge in some food and beverage, although, full disclaimer, I watched this completely sober for the entire duration starting at 10 a.m., which something tells me that is not how these films were intended to be watched in broad daylight, but whatever. One critic, in response to the second film, said that it was, quote, little more than an excuse to stage elaborate gory scenes of characters getting killed off. And you know what? That's a hard read. That's 100% correct. But there are times where that can be fun. Look, it's my job to tell you that these movies are not good, because that's... unfortunately, that is just true. On a couple levels. But therein lies the beauty with horror. Bad horror isn't simply a bad movie, because bad horror often becomes decent comedy. And I hope that's what I've proven with today's video. Also, shout out to this room. This will be the last YouTube video here that I'm ever filming. While I was filming, I'm pretty sure my neighbor is having a little bit of sex, which is good. I hope to avoid that with where I live next. For you as the viewer, this changes nothing. Next week I'll be back, just at a slightly different location. Same camera, same microphone, same me, same writing. So, if you like all that, I'm honestly probably going to keep most of the same knickknacks too. But yeah, I'll be back next week. Inshallah with fewer cockroaches. Shout out to Natalie for helping me with this giant movie marathon. Go give her a follow. Socials down there. Lovely viewing companion. But that's gonna do it for me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment down below. Engage with this video. It gets it out to more people. All that fun stuff. If you like the Final Destination movies, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I do read every comment. And as always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and I'll see you for the next one.